And welcome back. And we're going to talk about trailers now. We have a couple of trailers to discuss. But can you figure out what's changed between the commercial break?
Tweet now and win nothing.
Yeah, basically. No, we realized that we had the invisible walls art bouncing around the screen.
I'm blaming it on the fact that I was on Invisible Walls this week, and we just rolled right into it.
I blame it on the fact it's Thursday and I haven't had my medication yet.
I blame it on the fact that I don't care.
Okay, so let's talk trailers. Two in particular. One is for my still most anticipated movie, even more so after watching this trailer for the rest of this year, and that would be Thor:
It's a
The
fantastic
Dark
trailer.
World.
Yep.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I think it's, we've talked about it. It's a movie that looks like they're having fun
Yep.
in the movie. It's epic, but
He's got a sense of humor. It's interesting that back on his world, he's found kind of that level between cockiness, self-assuredness and I don't know what you call it, just being a normal guy. I mean, understanding, I guess. That
He's got a level of maturity, but at the end of the day,
there
it's
you have
like,
it.
I'm still a fucking thunder god.
Yeah.
yeah, he could do, he's going to do what he wants.
Yeah.
He's, and
those last couple shots of the trailer with the one-liner,
Rock.
with the Rock God, the very Raiders of the Lost Ark moment almost with the swordsman, and then you've got his one-liner that's just.
it's so much
He knocks it
fun.
out of the park on that one.
It sums up the character. So, but you were told,
We've got Loki's back. I know there's been some complaints about him from people online, and I always find that confusing because they're like, "Oh, he's such a boring character." It's Loki. It's like he's a god. He is just up there with Thor. I mean, in terms of power,
Right.
People always kind of sideline him, but
Well, I think it's also because
It's a little bit of burnout.
they haven't let Loki off the leash yet.
Yep.
Right.
And that's no pun intended. I think when hopefully in this movie, because we know he's not coming back for Age of Ultron, I'm hoping that they let Tom Hiddleston off the leash. Because I mean, if you saw the Comic-Con piece where he came out and and he was there with the mewling quims, which I still find really filthy, by the way.
Yeah.
Look up what a quim is. That's really kind of rude. But yeah, when he comes out and he's got this arrogance and he's just really hamming it up. We have the phrase in the UK, a pantomime villain. So I hope they let him go and chew some scenery in this one.
Yeah.
I really do, and that he's not marginalized because we won't see him again for a while. And you were saying he said he's open to coming onto Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
He was talking about he'd be open to making a cameo or an appearance. I think it's going to be interesting to see how all of this ties into Shield. When Shield takes place, is it between the movies? Is it during the movies?
Well, and
are we going to see, Thor and Loki and Iron Man? You could have Iron Man appear, right? You just have him appear in the suit.
You just have him fly overhead.
Yeah, same thing. Hulk could crash through a wall.
If Loki appears in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., all I want is for Agent Coulson to kick 7 bells out of him. I just want to see Coulson, make him powerless, make some sort of virus or some sort of doohickey plot device where Coulson kicks his ass.
That's a major Sweeps episode.
Yeah,
Coulson's revenge.
Yeah, that would be lovely. But I'm still stoked for Thor.
I'm more excited now for Thor than I was actually for the first one, because the first one, the advertising was horrible. This one is it's epic. It looks epic finally. The first one was very small. This one they've really blown out.
More Idris Elba in this one as well.
Yeah.
It's not just him standing there
Seeming much more normal. Yeah.
Okay, so the second trailer is for Her.
Yeah, Spike Jonze' new movie, written by Spike Jonze as well, with Casey Affleck. As a lonely man.
No, it's Joaquin Phoenix.
It is Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, wait, Casey
What trailer did I
Affleck
watch?
Wrote that?
No, it was Joaquin. That's right. It's Joaquin Phoenix with a mustache. My bad.
Did you research for this?
Not at all. No.
Sexy.
I was calling it
Scarlett
him.
You were watching
Johansson.
Ishtar, weren't you?
Actually, no. Fuck that. I'm proud of that. Yes, I was. So Joaquin Phoenix, mustache, lonely guy, gets a new computer system that has voice activation, voice recognition, and the voice is played by Scarlett Johansson. And they find love, it feels like, in the trailer.
Yeah, it sounds like he's gone through some sort of terrible breakups, and he's kind of reliving those moments over and over in his head. And I was, I heard about the movie, wasn't super interested, and then saw the trailer, and I was like, okay, I'm in. More than anything, I'm totally ready to download the Scarlett Johansson voice pack for Siri.
Oh yeah, I think
So
we're all done with that.
anytime we can get on that,
Well,
that'd be great.
Spike Jonze is a fucking fantastic filmmaker. The guy has yet to make a movie that isn't interesting in one way, shape, or form.
I guess his one-liners for his movies always are like, wait, what the
hell is this?
What are you making?
Yeah.
And then you see the trailers, and you're like, okay, I'm in. So it was. I know we were passing around that.
It's got
that
Amy
around the
Adams.
office
Who else?
yesterday.
Amy Adams is in it, and Mara Rooney is also in it as
Mara
well.
Rooney is the ex, or we don't know
The
what's
the
previous relationship. But I got to say, I mean, Joaquin Phoenix is somebody, again, I can take or leave. I thought he was great in Walk the Line. I really didn't feel much from him in Gladiator. But exactly. But I think in this one, I mean, he looks like, this kind of like nerdy, socially, cut off. I'm not going to say he's not socially inept, but his character has gone through some sort of tragedy, I think, that has basically pulled him back from everybody else. And the fact that he ends up falling in love with iOS 10 or 12 or 26 or whatever it is it's going to be cool. I mean, it's not going to be for the fans of Iron Man and Thor.
Yeah.
But I also think that it's going to be a very interesting, almost date movie.
Did you like Joaquin Phoenix in Gone Baby Gone? Sorry, Casey Affleck. My bad.
Now this is my segment.
Yeah.
Do it. No.
Actually,
go.
No.
Go.
John's in as well. So
no. If you need Peter Capaldi info, I've got all that. So.
Well, I mean, now we're going to talk about the new Doctor who is Peter Capaldi. Lots of fanfare. BBC did a special, really quite cheesy and light entertainment. Oh, it was actually kind of cringeworthy with some of the F-list British celebrities they dragged on, not including the former Doctors, of course, who had every right to be there. But yes, Peter Capaldi is the new Doctor. Who dat, you may say? Well, if you've been off Twitter and you haven't seen any of this, Peter Capaldi is probably one of the best British actors of his generation. He's been around a very long time. Yeah. He's a Scottish lad. His more random claim to fame is that he was the lead singer in a band in school, and Craig Ferguson, the chat show host, was his drummer.
They were in the same band together.
They were in the same band together. They were also very great friends. Craig Ferguson says a lot of really good things about Peter Capaldi, helping him through some of his drug issues in his autobiography. Was it American by Choice?
Huh.
But anyway, yes, Peter Capaldi, who's no stranger to Doctor Who. No. He was in the second Donna Noble episode, The Fires of Pompeii. He played the marble merchant, and then he was obviously a core part of what is to this day one of the best miniseries in my opinion, which is Torchwood Children of Earth, which is the BBC version, not to be confused with the pile of shit stink Showtime version, Miracle Day, which was just shit stink with extra shit on it.
So what do you think about Miracle Day?
It was all right.
All right.
But yes, Capaldi was the British civil servant who was kind of like leading the whole outreach to the aliens, and he's a lifelong Doctor Who fan. He wrote a letter to the Radio Times, which is like TV Guide.
He was when he was 15.
Yeah,
so adorable.
Big fan. I mean, I personally think that, and no disrespect to Matt Smith and to Chris Eccleston, who are great actors and have really took the Doctor in their own different way, but when we had David Tennant, who was also a childhood Doctor Who fan and stayed with it his entire life, he brought a different dimension to the Doctor because he did carry this baggage with him. You could see that he wasn't just a man playing a character because he'd been through all these adventures watching them as a child. And I think that's what Capaldi's going to bring. I think, it's nice that they have gone older. I mean, he is the oldest Doctor to play Doctor Who since William Hartnell, who was also 55 when he first started, and that was the very first Doctor 50 years ago.
That's kind of scary if you look at Hartnell and you look at Capaldi and how well science has done to keep people looking younger these days.
Yeah. I think it's going to be interesting how long he can last. I'm guessing he's probably, because he is a very popular actor. He's done a couple of shows in the UK that he's synonymous with, one of them being a foul-mouthed PR guy, of which I can really relate to. But yeah, I think he'll probably be around for a couple of years. And then we'll regenerate. But what I'm hoping now is that we'll see a darker Doctor. I mean, one of my favorite bits in the Tennant era was The Waters of Mars, when it hinted at this Doctor Who character who is so sick of everything and has just been traveling for such a long time, and he's just ready to die and doesn't give a toss anymore. And then they just pulled back from it when they went into Tennant's regeneration. And I think that if we can have maybe a season of good Stephen Moffat writing, because Moffat's writing, big fan of his stuff, but it goes up and down. And then bring in a new showrunner for the second season of what Capaldi's going to be doing. And, who knows? We've got the 50th anniversary coming up. We've got this John Hurt character coming in. We're going to have all sorts of shenanigans going on. And I really think that I would like to... My favorite Doctor Who time period, and I know I'm talking for Jeremy's got no interest anyway.
I was napping.
Yeah. My favorite Doctor Who time period is actually the Tom Baker Elizabethan period, where they had this gothic horror feel.
Right. Yeah. Very kind of a very Hammer.
Fang Rock, Towns of Wen Chiang.
Yeah. Very Hammer feeling. Yeah.
The Pyramids of Mars.
Right.
Those are some of my favorite episodes, and hopefully they can get back to that level, because Doctor Who is also meant to be somewhat scary. I mean, it was when I was a kid, and I think kids are certainly more immune to the scares nowadays with everything else that goes on. But if they can recapture some of that with a darker Doctor who is not like, look at me, I got floppy hair and I'm cute and I'm a skinny boy in a suit, which is, like I said, no disrespect to Matt Smith and David Tennant, who have done fantastic jobs. I would like to see the Doctor as this figure to be respected, but also to be a little afraid of.
Mm-hmm. And that's something Capaldi can easily bring to the role.
Yes, I think he can indeed. So Megan Rue, who, if you have watched Invisible Walls, she's always on when we're talking about Assassin's Creed. She's also a huge Whovian. She was supposed to be here today, but she is off doing jury duty. So I said, send me a couple of paragraphs on what you thought. So this is what Megan has to say. For the first time, I'm relieved by the announcement about Peter. He's a fabulous, well-respected actor and a fellow Whovian. Hopefully he can turn Moffat's recent streak of lead into gold. So we're both in agreement. I've had these talks with
Not
other
a Moffat
people.
fan, yeah.
And this is just a short couple of paragraphs. Also, really stunned by how far Doctor Who has come since 2005 and in full since 1963. This is a show that's so internationally popular. I mean, the fact that the BBC America ran the announcement live in sync with when I first moved to the US, I couldn't find any quality British TV. And then when Doctor Who first aired in the UK, I had to go and stream it because I couldn't get it on anywhere because it was coming to Sci-Fi later in the year and it was butchered to hell. Yeah. So I'm certainly stunned by it. But I'll be interested to hear your comments. We're not touching on any of the controversy that, it wasn't a woman. My personal thoughts, I don't think we're ready for a female Doctor. Maybe after 2 or 3 years of Capaldi, I think that will be a more noticeable change up for if we go to a female Doctor then. And I know a lot of people wanted Idris Elba and a couple of other people. It's like, so why don't we have a black Doctor Who? And I find it interesting that Neil Gaiman this week came out and said that they'd actually offered it to a black actor who turned it down. I
thought that was a little uncouth, don't you?
Well, I mean, I think he was probably sick of everybody bashing.
Right. Sure.
And
fair,
I think I mean, unfortunately, it could be construed as disrespect to Peter Capaldi, but I think it's also a case of the disrespect to Moffat and all those guys beforehand.
Okay.
So it's like, you're racist, you're sexist, you're misogynist, blah blah blah.
Right.
And the rumor is that Patterson Joseph, who is a great actor, and I hope I didn't mangle his name, but he's now on Law and Order UK. But he was offered the part, and it was turned down. I mean, that's what I'm guessing it was, because it certainly wouldn't have been Idris Elba. Elba's too big a star, and he's also too big.
Too busy.
He's too big a man to be the Doctor. The Doctor has to be this sort of like unassuming kind of.
I'd say it.
Physicality wise.
I don't think Elba would be the best of Doctors either. I mean, there's something about his character. There's something. I mean, we've now seen him in enough stuff outside of The Wire to make me say that there's something about him that just doesn't. I don't know.
I mean, Luther's coming back as well, new season of Luther, which is fantastic. So, just to wrap up, I don't think we're ready for a female Doctor, but I think what we are ready for, and this is a message to Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss and everybody else who writes for Doctor Who, that we are ready for the return of the Rani and Romana, who are, the female Time Lords, and give them really good characters. Get some people in there. I mean, you look at, I made the analogy this week that Orphan Black on BBC America had 8 different female characters that were really cool, and they were all played by the same actress.
Right.
Borrow one of those guys to write a female character for Doctor Who, because I got to say, Clara, she's kind of wishy-washy. Karen Gillan as Amy Pond, she was kind of wishy-washy. The only really outstanding one to me has been Donna Noble and Catherine Tate, because she's been grounded, she's been strong, and she's, she basically gives as good as she gets. So let's have some more of that. Okay, sorry to rant on for as long as I did. Jeremy is
I got a
actually
nap.
brain
It was
dead.
great. It was a nice 10-minute nap.
But Jeremy, next segment's all about you. Why don't you tell us about the interesting interview you did last week?
So we were down at QuakeCon, Marcus and I snuck away for about 15 minutes and did an interview with Hugo Martin, who was the concept artist for Pacific Rim, a movie that we all liked this summer. So here's my interview with Hugo.
Oh, wait. So I guess I should start with, why are you at QuakeCon? You worked on Pacific Rim, and now you're at id, right?
Yeah. Well, after Pacific Rim, I did a little more freelancing, and then started doing freelance work for id on one of their properties, and it was working out really well. So I asked them if they were interested. I'd love to come down full time, and I visited Dallas. I fell in love with it. My wife and I really like it. It's a good place for our kids. So, and the game is awesome. I hit it off with the team leaders there. We love collaborating together. So I was happy. I relocated down. I'm here for good now.
So growing up, I watched all these, the monster movies, the giant robot movies, mech movies, and it was all just something I wanted to see again, and we spent so many years not seeing those type of movies. Were you also inspired by that stuff?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like all the great monster movies from when we were kids and the sci-fi anime stuff, and we're all huge fans. And I went to school for automotive design, so I love big shiny mechs like anybody else. And so it was just so cool to get a chance to actually work on it and get to finally see it up on screen, as you said, because we'd never really seen anything like that before. Robots fighting monsters. It was pretty incredible.
Yeah, it was usually two dudes in suits punching each other,
exactly.
And it was not very good. Lots of cardboard cities that they were like stepping on. What you were showing off some of the concept art earlier, and you actually brought a lot kind of the mechanics, not just the design, but how they interact with each other and how parts, you were talking about like the collarbones on the neck.
Yeah.
Can you kind of tell us how kind of some of that came to be? Was that Guillermo coming to you saying, how do the mechs work? Or was that just you going, well, here's how I think it's going to work, so I'm going to pitch this to the team?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, he's basically the conductor of everything. He's the head designer of pretty much the whole world. So, and he's just nonstop full of amazing ideas. But he would kind of expect us to put as much thought into the designs that we made as possible. And you kind of, it was really a matter of if you wanted it to make it into the film, and if you wanted him to like it, it's always better to pitch it with a good, solid idea behind it. So anytime that I pitched anything, I would always try to think of it in terms of how it would actually work. I started to really, he's such a fan of biology and anatomy and the way things work. So I started to think of the robots just in those terms as like I was showing you earlier, like pistons that kind of mimic the way muscles work in the body, and framework that kind of reminiscent of the human skeleton and stuff like that, and actuators that would plug in at certain spots, same way where muscles would connect to bones and stuff. And the more that we talked about that, the more he got into it, and again, he'd bring just a ton of stuff to the table, and it was a lot of fun thinking of all that stuff.
One of my biggest complaints, if I have any, about the film is you see these really cool aspects, and if it's there's those nuns with like the religion, or you see a little bit of the kaiju organ trading, and then one of the things was the Jaeger. In the very beginning, you see this awesome white Jaeger, and then he's gone.
Yeah.
And it's something I know you worked on, and hopefully we're gonna be able to see that in other mediums, right?
Yeah, that's Tacit Ronin, and there's a couple of other ones that you see in the Art of book, and I think that they're going to be using those guys in the graphic novels moving forward, and because a lot of the fans on the forums have been asking for them, talking about, well, who's this Jaeger? I saw him briefly, and he was really awesome. So definitely Tacit is one of them, and yeah, I think that it's definitely planned that there'll be graphic novels. So I'm pretty sure those are coming out, and then hopefully, there'll be other stuff.
Cool. What? Maybe they get made in even their action figures. Right?
That'd be awesome.
It's like you have the movie ones, then you have the expanded universe. Take the whole Star Wars route on that. Some of the other stuff that we saw, it was just a lot of these cool little background pieces, and you were saying it was like the forklift. Like, is that stuff that you wanted to? They needed a forklift, or you're like, well, in this world, the forklifts have to be different. Like, why not just bring in like a forklift that you would find in a warehouse now, or was it like, did you had to build something? They came to you and said, how are we going to transport fuel? And you're like, well, I have an idea. And that's how that came about? Or were you kind of tasked at those things?
I think I was tasked. I think, if I remember correctly, it was, we need some vehicles, to have in the background of the Shatter Dome, and, sure, we could have used a regular forklift, but but we wanted a really cool looking forklift, something that's in the future. So yeah, that's how those things were kind of given out.
Cool. Was there one thing that maybe you really liked, or you thought was a cool little aspect? Like earlier you were talking about the collars and how those worked. That people, maybe fans that watch the movie, didn't see, that you're like, you guys missed this. It was totally awesome, and here's how they work. A little behind the scenes info.
The way the visors work is that they're it's a sheet of glass, and then there's a steel honeycomb mesh behind that, like a structure, and then in each side of one of those honeycomb pods is a camera, and that's what projects the image back into the interior of the con pod. And Guillermo and I talked about that a lot, and I actually, because you can see the honeycomb mesh when you're close up on Gypsy, and when he falls down face first in the snow at the beach, you could actually see the little cameras spilled out all over the ground, because this kind of give it that sort of organic look. And I don't know if anybody caught on to that. I was super excited that they actually have that in there, because I thought it was a cool idea, but it's definitely in there.
Cool. And I guess I have to ask, why was there no video game? It's like the perfect universe.
Yeah, I don't know.
Did you guys sit around the office and go, this would be the perfect game? And then obviously games are a different production cycle, but was it something that I'm sure you guys talked about? And
they talked about it, of course. Like, we wanted everything, like we'd love to see it everywhere.
Right. Action figures, games,
yeah, exactly.
comics. Right. That's fair.
So hopefully, we'll see what happens.
Sounds good. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, a little bit late to the table, but we've all seen Wolverine now, and we're all going to give you our opinions in 60 seconds. I'll start off with me this time. I will say I found it entertaining, but a bit of a mess.
Agreed. The very last 20 minutes, it kind of fell apart a bit. Getting there was a lot of fun. I appreciated the fact that it wasn't about trying to save the world and was a much more personal story.
Yeah, first 80%, I was all about it. That the last part became very comic booky. I think they had a lot of messes to try to deal with this, with the last Wolverine movie and the third X-Men movie, trying to tie that universe up to get it 2 Days of Future Past, and they did a good job.
Yeah, I think they basically, it's better than those two movies.
Right,
and that's all we can say. Yeah. I mean, you can't ask for any more in this. So, book club, we gave you a task 2 weeks ago to read this, and if you look at my cover is different to Jeremy's.
Yeah,
because we have
different
some
anniversary edition.
Yeah, I have. I
don't know.
Well, you got to remember, I actually had this in the UK, but then I sold all my stuff before I moved, so I had to rebuy a whole bunch of stuff. So yes, the Dark Knight Returns. That's what we recommended. So please feel free to discuss this in the comments section.
But the reason we're reading it is because at Comic-Con, the big story was Man of Steel 2 will be not based, but influenced and inspired by this. And then, as we were talking about it, a ton of people in the comments were like, we've never read that. And it was kind of mind-blowing. Yeah. Definitely, this is probably my favorite, and it's not controversial at all to say, my favorite Batman story.
It's right up there for me.
It's right up there.
It was during the big reinvention of superheroes. It ushered in a new age of superheroes. Yeah.
And it's just, there's some really good, subtle things in there. Like, the Batman stuff is amazing. The media stuff is hilarious.
Yeah, the media stuff is fantastic.
Reading
That's
all
actually
this
my favorite
media
part
stuff
of it,
in here, 20 years. So there's a lot of talk shows are happening. If you guys haven't read it, and they're discussing is Batman a vigilante or not, but just the kind of the news wraps before and after are so spot on now for where we're at.
Yep.
With just this media in a kind of an echo chamber.
So the original came out in '86. This is the 10th anniversary.
Wow.
This is 96. So we're now not far off the 30th anniversary of this book. But yeah, I mean, the fact that this was written in the 80s and he does nail. I mean, it's the height of the Reagan era, and Reagan still is in this book, but how he nails how the media interacts and the talking heads, like what we are, all over the place, is really quite chilling.
Yeah, and if you guys haven't read it, it's really a story. The superheroes have all retired at this point. Yeah. Something, some stuff went down, and the governments were like, we can't have you guys just running around. So Superman kind of led the charge by backing off, and all the other heroes have backed off. Wonder Woman's gone back to her home, and some people have died.
Green Lantern's gone off to explore space.
Yeah.
Well, Superman.
Oliver dies, right? I think this
Selena
one Green Lantern. Selena Kyle's retired.
Yeah.
No,
really retires.
Yeah. But I mean, Superman becomes a puppet of the U.S. government.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we will see Man of Steel 2, where we will see this Superman as a wanting to make amends for the death and destruction in Man of Steel 1, help rebuild and inadvertently become a puppet because he wants to please. And I think that's where we will see the Batman character come in to sort of like smack him down, and we'll find out who is the real bad guy.
Yeah, and this is the final fight between Batman and Joker in this.
Yeah.
Gordon's retiring. It's just this. It really puts you in this place where Batman you're in his head. And one of my favorite, I was
depressing
going through and rereading it, and like, there's this great part where he's having the fight with the Joker, and all of Joker's text, they take their text, and Batman's always kind of this gray, Superman's blue, young Robin's yellow, Joker's bright green, and in the last moments of Joker and Batman together, Joker's text all turns gray, just like Batman.
Oh, nice.
And it's as they're talking to each other about, it's really as they're kind of going back and forth. Yeah, look at, as they're going back and forth about kind of
that's cool.
how they're mirrors of each other.
Yeah, they become
their
mirrors
text
of each other.
turns into the same color. And it's just
great.
this subtle, like, the whole argument is,
they're the same side of flip sides of the same
would
coin.
any of these, it's what we've always had, would these supervillains exist if
not
Batman,
for Batman.
Is Batman the reason that they exist, or does he exist because they exist?
Right.
Are they two sides of the same coin? It all starts with a Harvey Dent story. So it's definitely one of those. If you haven't read, I know there's a lot of people that say they don't like superhero comics because it's too got to go save the whole world.
This is much more. This is a character drama more than anything else.
And they actually have the 2 motion comic movies that came out.
There's the full-blown animated feature,
right?
Or two-parter animated feature that sticks to it pretty much frame for frame. I mean, it's a really solid adaptation of it.
I think it's also interesting that because this was in the 80s, this was totally out of character for any of the other books.
This is the darkest. I mean, you think Nolan couldn't do what he did without these books.
I mean, this is this is way gorier than you see in a lot of the comic books of that. Because I mean, that was the year I was 15, 16 when this came out, and it was beyond anything that you'd see in the Marvel or DC universe. So, I agree. One of the best. It's not my 100% favorite. Do not get this confused with the sequel. DK2 is horrible.
Yeah.
What's your favorite?
My favorite.
Year One's always good.
Year One I love, but I mean I am such a whole fan of the No Man's Land, Contagion, Cataclysm series, which we can probably discuss. That one is an 8-book series. 8 of these.
Yeah.
But
slightly bigger.
What's the book for the next book of the week?
So we have a couple people online have tweeted at us, and Alex Smith at blah blah 4 or IV, I guess, has pitched Matt Fraction's Hawkeye, and it's Hawkeye. My Life is a Weapon. It's a trade. It's the first 5 issues of Hawkeye, and it's also Young Avengers Presents 6. If you have the Marvel Unlimited app, or if you read those online, all of those are available. And so that's what we'll be talking about next week.
I'm going to go and buy the actual book because, as I told Jeremy, when the apocalypse comes and there's no electricity, I'll be reading my comic books by candlelight while he's shaking his iPad at the sky and crying to the gods.
I'll be using my iPad to light fires, I'll use the glass from the iPad to light your books on fire so we could eat, so we could barbecue. And John will just
I'm not going to do much. Yeah, I'm just going to sit there and
Let's
watch,
be honest, when the apocalypse happens, we're all dead. But so I'm going
to sit in a pile of ash.
We want your suggestions, and the next thing we want to read is something that is not a superhero comic. So we did one DC, one Marvel, and give us something. It doesn't have to be something new.
It doesn't have to be a graphic novel in any way, shape, or form. It could actually be a bona fide book. Like, I mean, obviously...
You mean like with words and shit?
With words and shit, no pictures.
Yeah.
And, Readers' Wives from Penthouse does not count. Trust me, I've pitched it every week so far. But I mean, obviously, if you're going to give us a 700-page tome, that is something that we could look at. We could say we're getting it, and then we can look at it over a period of weeks.
Let's stick with trades for now.
You want to stick with trades?
I can't read a new book a week. I'm already reading another book a week for another book club. Can't do that. Plus this, you're madness. Plus we have games to play. But if you really have a book to read, let us know. Let's stick with trades.
Dan Brown doesn't count.
No,
Brown
well, we
doesn't.
said books.
Oh, sorry.
Not words on a page.
Got it. Got it.
So I think that's it for this week. I'm going to be down at D23 this weekend. If you're down there, find me. I'll be the annoying guy wearing Google Glass.
I'm not going to be at D23 this week, so if you turn up at my house looking for me, I'll punch you in the face.
I'll be writing the screenplay for Ishtar 2,
Electric Boogaloo.
Nerds in Paradise.
And we'll see you next week.
And now with the Snowpiercer Report, here's Elise Willems.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Elise. So tell us, what's new with Snowpiercer this week?
Big news in Snowpiercer, 4 million ticket sales in Korea as of Tuesday. It's beating records. It's blowing Iron Man 3 set ticket sales and Transformers ticket sales out of the water, on its way to becoming it is the biggest selling film in Korean history.
Wow, that sounds pretty blockbuster bongo to me, Elise.
It is, John.
So tell me about what's going on with Snowpiercer in the United States.
This side of the pond, not such great developments. There's a bit of a snag this week. The Weinstein Company is planning to cut 20 minutes from the Western theatrical release. The reason for this is to try to appeal to the sentiments of the Midwestern United States audiences, the people who may not understand a high-concept science fiction film.
Well, that sounds pretty crazy to me, at least.
I think it's pretty crazy, and I think it's completely unnecessary. The film's already only 126 minutes long, so, what do they have to cut?
And how's the director feel about this?
BJH, no word from him yet, but let's keep our eyes and ears open, John.
All right, Elise, thank you very much for that update. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next week with the Snowpiercer Report.